Hi everyone, welcome to Otakusphere Weekly, episode 24. I'm Karen, and with me tonight are Sal.
Konbanwa.
Nicely done. Life Song.
Hello.
And LB.
Hey.
Okay, so let's jump right into it with Yuri on Ice. Oh wait, no, I did the wrong thing, because LB continues to actually be, interesting and have hobbies and has, things he wants to talk about. Unlike me. So, you're watching, what is it you're watching that's from previous seasons? Code Geass?
Yeah, I'm rewatching Code Geass. I'm about 15 episodes into the first season, because I've seen the first season before, and I tried to rewatch it about a year ago, and I just wasn't into it. But for some reason, I got the urge to try it again. So yeah, this time I'm up to episode 15 of the first season, hoping to get through that within the next couple of days, and then move on to season 2, which is the part that I've never seen before.
Okay, I'm tempted to say something about season 2, but I don't want to spoil you.
Please don't.
I'll just
Can
say
you spoil Code Geass?
I'll just say one thing about season 2. I'll be no matter how you feel through it, make sure you see it through the end, because the ending might make up for how you felt about the show.
I will do my best.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Code Geass is in this weird, this kind of weird no man's land for me, where I've seen all of it, but I don't really have a strong opinion on it. I think it's well done. I appreciate kind of its audacity, if that makes any sense, but I don't really feel compelled to rewatch it or anything. I never sit down and think, man, that Code Geass was such a good show. It's weird that I'm lukewarm on it.
I think that the appeal of those stories is that they reveal everything in reverse, and typically that's really terrible storytelling, because it doesn't actually make sense when you're watching it. But then they reveal it all, and they have so much fun doing it, and you're everything is shocking. And as long as you just kind of turn off your brain and stop thinking about the fact that they can do absolutely anything, because they're just going to tell you how they did it after the fact. Yeah, it can be a lot of fun.
That's true. Well, it just goes to show, any rule of writing can be broken, if it's done for a reason, for a good reason.
Yeah, my thing with Code Geass is that I really enjoyed it the first time I saw it, and the problem is that if you watch it too soon afterward, then it's absolutely no fun. It's only fun if you don't remember or don't know what's coming next. If you watch it too early and you already know what's happening, then the suspense of it is just totally gone, and that's a big part of why I enjoyed it in the first place.
I was just thinking, the only thing I'm mad at Code Geass for is that it spawned shows like Ballroom. But
Yeah, but the funny thing about that is that was the result of people involved with Code Geass saying I think I could do a better job than Goro Taniguchi with this type of show.
No, you can't.
Yeah, that's what happened. Didn't work.
Someone needed to disabuse.
That's why Guilty Crown came to be as well, too.
I like Guilty Crown.
I only saw bits and pieces of Guilty Crown. It just seemed one of those shows that was impossible to take seriously because its core concept was so wonky. I can pull a weapon from the void inside your heart. Blah 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 blah. blah. I don't know. Didn't really.
It was kind of. I don't know. I like the music helped me quite a bit.
Yeah, Supercell's track was awesome in that show. Well, by the way, was that the first time that group actually got to work on a bigger project in terms of soundtrack, or were they Supercell just involved with the opening and ending?
I think they made the Egoist name for that anime.
Nice.
Okay, and there was something else on your list, LB, but I don't remember. So please remind me.
I heard a few weeks ago that Kodansha had licensed a manga about ballroom dancing, and for those of you who don't know this, that's something that I do in real life. I teach ballroom dance. So I was intrigued by this. I thought it sounded interesting, so I went ahead and I bought the first volume, and yeah, very disappointed. Less than impressed, even.
What was wrong with it? Dish, tell.
It's not so much. To be fair, on a technical level, it's fine. I thought they did a really good job with drawing the dance sequence, and they got the technical aspects of competitions, so that was all good.
Wait, I'm sorry. What's this manga called again? I'm sorry.
It's called Welcome to the Ballroom.
Welcome to the Ballroom, right. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, other than that, though, the characters were just so unlikable, and it follows a very typical shonen formula, which, in this case, kind of bugged me. The whole aimless teenager discovers his power that he didn't know he had, and he trains, and he suddenly is amazing because he worked hard and all this good shit. And it's just like, wow. Please don't make ballroom dancing shonen.
Yeah, that doesn't really sound like it would be a good mix.
Speaking of which, I'll be like, are there any like ballroom dancing themed anime or manga that you've experienced that you loved a lot?
This is actually the very first manga or anime or really anything out of Japan that I've discovered that deals with ballroom dancing. I know that there are other manga series in Japan that deal with this subject. I haven't read them or researched them all that closely. I'd like to in the near future, but yeah, this was the first like manga or anime that dealt with dance that I've experienced, and yeah, not overly impressed.
Yeah, that strikes me as the kind of thing where there's probably a couple of manga in existence about it, but they're probably not localized.
Yeah, this is the first one that I've heard of that has been localized.
So you know what this means, though. Even if you don't like it, you have to buy every copy to show publishers there's a point to licensing ballroom dancing manga.
Yeah, well,
okay, maybe you don't. But...
Look at this! Look at this one manga we licensed. Somebody actually bought one copy of every single episode, or every single release.
Let's license more.
I plan on reading at least the next couple of volumes. The next volume is going to be released on November 29th. And I'm going to give it a couple of more volumes to see if it gets a little bit better. But yeah, just the first volume didn't leave me with a happy feeling.
Okay, well, thanks for warning everybody out there who might have purchased the ballroom dancing manga unawares. I mean, I don't think there's probably anyone who fits that description in our audience, but you know what? You never know. You can't predict.
Yeah, there's all types out there.
Maybe a genre that would suit that thing would maybe be like a Hosei manga, like a Hosei ballroom dancing manga if one exists.
Honestly, I think that if it had been shoujo or even seinen or josei, I think it might have worked a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But the whole shonen formula of boy just works hard and suddenly powers up through his hard work and determination, it didn't work. And the supporting characters were just horrible. I didn't like a single one of them.
I feel like I saw a reference to something ballroom dancing related recently in anime or manga, but now I'll just try to see if I can figure out what it was for the next podcast. I'm never going to remember it now. So.
I know I've seen a couple of scenes where there's like a ballroom dance going on, but I can't think of any manga or anime I've seen that are actually about ballroom dancing.
Yeah. And speaking of manga, I have some manga that I lifted off a certain ballroom dancing teacher on the West Coast, which I have not read yet, but I definitely, once I finish off my current batch of library books, I'm going to dig into those. So maybe next time I can be interesting and have hobbies besides just watching everything on Crunchyroll. So next
Sounds
time,
good.
Manga talk, hopefully. Okay. So we're going to move to Yuri on Ice episode 6, and this episode had a crap ton of skating. We had like 5 or 6 different routines, so I don't know if Lifesong was satisfied because he has high standards for Yuri on Ice, but I thought it was pretty entertaining, and it was really nice to see Yuri really nail his routine. And I found his kind of the way he got into the zone was very interesting and not what I would have expected. So all in all, I thought it was a very good episode. The only thing that was weird to me is they kept going on about that last guy who's like, oh, he's so oozing adult male sexuality. I'm like, no, give me Yuri any day of the week. I don't like this guy. So I don't know, maybe Saya Yamamoto, maybe the director and I just don't see eye to eye on this male sexiness thing. I don't know. But other than that, great episode. LB, what'd you think?
I agreed. I really enjoyed this episode. Victor stripping at dinner made me laugh. Yuri completing his short routine made me happy. The only thing that threw me off was the things that was Kristoff's inner monologue during his routine at the very end, which, yeah, that screen cap that I posted to the chat room a week ago, just that alone took me so out of the moment because I was spending like 5 seconds wondering, wait, did he really just say that? Back up, back up, back up. Oh my god, he did just say that.
Just to be clear, we're talking about the guy who was super trying to be sexy, not the guy who was super trying to curse his girlfriend.
Yeah, the guy who was trying to be sexy.
I just wanted to be clear because there were two of those in the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who really wanted to curse his girlfriend, that kind of came out of left field. I did not know what to make of that.
Was his girlfriend, was his ex there watching the performance?
Yeah.
They implied that she was there with like her new boyfriend or that she was there with
because those two look like the ones shown in the flashback of the breakup.
Yep.
She went with that other guy.
Yep.
I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
They also imply that she's a figure skater too, or maybe they straight out said it.
Well, they said
they did.
They said that she's an ice dancer, and ice dancing and figure skating are actually different competitions. Mm-hmm. So they're not. Well, they wouldn't directly compete anyway because men wouldn't compete against women in figure skating, but it's not the exact same sport. So,
okay.
Sure, figure skating tidbit for the week. Let's see, Sal, what do you think of this episode?
Again, like Yuri on Ice is hitting it again, and I really love how with these two not just this episode but the previous one, how they're doing a pretty good job of establishing all the rivals with the brief amount of time we get to see them. Like each character kind of shows their own personality and quirk.
Yeah, even the ones who weren't
insane. building up, which is acting as a great build-up for as we go further and further into the competition while Yuri travels the world and competes.
Yeah, and I'm glad that none of them are just like assholes. Like, you should get off the ice, Yuri. You don't belong here. Or something like that. Like we had enough of that with Russian.
They're very encouraging, and they're all like being all buddy, feeling on each other and stuff. Like they've known each other for a long time.
Yeah, that was nice because if everybody was acting like Yurio was acting in episode 1, that would just get really trying. And so I'm glad that they didn't.
I'm also glad that that one lady is still around with Yurio, just messing with him when she can.
Oh, the single skater who's I can't remember her name, but I know who you mean, the redhead.
Yes.
Maybe she should focus a little bit more on her own career and stop obsessing about the men's figure skating so much. I don't know. What about Life Song?
I feel like a broken record. The animation's still bothering me. I don't know. Otherwise, though, the episode was interesting. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fun episode with all the different routines. I'm still having a hard time really pulling together like when one guy wins or one guy loses or like I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand at all.
Yeah, it is a very complicated scoring system that they have.
Yeah. It's more like you have to pay attention to the audience's reactions when you're watching.
Well, I hear them telling me that, but I'm like, I see the same animated routine I've seen before. Why is it impressive this time?
Well, this time Yuri didn't screw up any of his jumps, which is the
first
time that's happened.
Actually,
also,
I will say that for Yuri.
I think the reason, like maybe one excuse for recycling, besides maybe the possible placeholder, like it's also because maybe he's been practicing the same routine, getting better and better. So of course we're gonna see some animations recycled in that part.
I practiced martial arts where I would do forms that were, you try to be identical every time. It never looks perfectly identical. I realize that's just an animation thing, and sure, maybe they don't want to reanimate it every time, but I don't know. It actually was different this time. I thought it was pretty funny. Like, Victor's all, something's different about Yuri. And as he says it, the exact same animation that's played like 3 or 4 times now plays, and then Yuri licks his lips at the end of it. And you're like, I noticed that. It was a very small, subtle thing, but I noticed it because I've seen this like 4 times now. That was different.
Do you remember the He-Man and She-Ra cartoons from the 80s? And how like 90% of the episode would actually be stock animation? For some reason, just hearing you complain about Yuri on Ice and the reuse of animation makes me think of that.
I didn't watch, I really didn't watch much cartoons as a kid. Anime is where I got into stuff.
Wait, you haven't seen He-Man and She-Ra?
I have not. I maybe have seen an episode of it. maybe, when I was much younger. I was not allowed to watch that when I was a kid.
Oh, you poor deprived child. All right, we're going to become, next week we'll become the He-Man and She-Ra podcast. Screw this anime garbage. Okay, so...
That happens in anime, too, sometimes. And sometimes I'm more okay with it than others. I just feel like it's really the focus of the story here.
The recycling tends to be, like, in a lot of action, a lot of, like, Magical Girl and Super Robot shows where you see like the finisher used in every episode recycled over and over again.
Those are like hype moments. They're not like the deep storytelling moments of the show. Or we're here the core of the story is the skating on the ice, and they're reusing animation and I don't want to be too hard on this episode because I think there was more unique animation in this episode than most of the figure skating so far. So. There was a lot of good to it, too.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how they deal with the free skate next episode.
And I guess the one question is, like, I'm wondering if these recycling will be in the final product or if they'll actually reanimate that stuff. I'm actually wondering about.
Yeah, it'd be neat to see what this looks like.
Because I remember the recent blog Sakugabaru actually did a piece on Yuri on Ice, and they talked about how some of the recycling was the result of not being able to meet certain deadlines. At least that was episode 4. So
yeah, I read complications.
That.
Yeah.
I need to find that blog.
Yeah, I read that. I read that too, and I do think they'll clean up some things for the Blu-ray. But the thing is, I can't believe they're going to reanimate all these routines because that would be like practically the work of doing a whole nother show. Like, I can't believe they're going to do that much to it. But who knows? You know, maybe that'll blow me away.
I've seen crazier things in animation before.
I mean, speaking of which, like, isn't Shaft famous for that? Where whenever one of their shows ends up on Blu-ray, they'll actually retouch it in different ways.
Shaft is. I remember one particular episode of. I don't know if I can pronounce it. Remember the whole title. Dempa Ona something.
Electric. Ground control to Psycho-Electric Girl.
Yes. There was one particular episode of that where they have barely colored in between frames, just like still panning over them for like 4 or 5 seconds at a time, and then they just transition it from one to the next, and you're like, the animator didn't even get to this. He didn't even start.
It's pretty funny.
And yeah, they went and they fixed it up later. I hunted down that scene in particular. I'm like, yep, that's dramatically different.
Yeah, but definitely. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. It'll definitely be interesting to see how this looks as it's a finished product. I mean, it's an interesting situation that the TV broadcast is kind of like the rough draft. I mean, I could see people getting upset that that's the case, but you know, that's the situation we have.
That's always the case when it comes to like original productions. You know, like if anything they can go wrong. They can either go really amazing or one little thing can cause them to go wrong in one way.
I still like the show quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too hard on it, but it's caught somewhere between where, like, I think if the storytelling, the animated storytelling was working for it the way it wants it to be, it would be in a really high category that I'd want to place it in and say, this is amazing. I tell people that don't know anything about ice skating, you want to watch Yuri on Ice. But as it is now, I'm like, I probably would not do that.
Yeah. I can understand that.
Yeah, reason I was mentioning that, Life, because Mappa actually, like, I think it was like 2 years ago, they did the latest season of Hajime no Ippo, and all the boxing scenes were they didn't reuse any stock footage with the boxing. It was all like new scenes and stuff, and it was all smoothly animated.
Well, yeah,
capturing the dynamic angle of boxing. So,
and I will flip it around too. Animating everything doesn't always make a story good. Like, if you remember Endless 8, they animated every single scene of that differently.
Yeah, but it still felt like it was stock footage, even though it was animated differently.
Yep.
Yeah, that just seems like a waste of money to me. But
if we put enough passion into it, anything can be good.
I'm about to yawn on the heels of your passionate comment. Okay, so we're going to move on to Keijo, episode 6. And I wasn't too into this episode of Keijo just because I need for them to keep having bouts and keep showing off their ridiculous superpowers. And this one was kind of a character development episode where they go explore, I don't know, Kyoto, is it?
I think so.
Yeah, and it's just like, it was kind of nice and everything, but it's like, this is not, girls bonding is not what I watched this show for. Come on, I want to see more like titty hypnosis and butt Big Bang or whatever. So this was just kind of like, it was okay.
But what about the fight against the Pro?
it did make me wonder what Nozomi's problem is. Like, what is the weakness in her body that makes it so that she can't use her vacuum butt cannon on the pro girl? I don't know. I got nothing. So I am kind of curious about that.
I think I know what it might be. It might have to do with a movement thing, considering that the pro was able to just stand in the spot that she needed to start the attack. So maybe her weakness is that maybe some of her moves are a bit choreographed, where she needs to change up the positioning to catch her opponents off guard.
Well, the pro said something though, something like you have a specific weakness in your body that's screwing you up. So I think it's some part of her body. So I don't think it's
it could be something really crude or crass too. I mean, this is Keijo. We don't know what it is.
Maybe it's like your boobs are 2 different sizes, and that makes you so predictable.
They could go there.
Yeah. What did you think this episode, Lifeson?
I actually liked it. I mean, you're right. It didn't have the appeal that the show has had that's really kept us watching. I don't know. I found myself surprised by how much I actually like the characters.
I'm not sure if I do or not, because the white-haired girl, what's her name? Miura? Darn it.
Miyabi or...
Miyab...
No, not
Miyabi. Something.
The white-haired one.
The white-haired girl.
Miyabi.
The white-haired girl, when she was acting all, sad that at first she thought no one wanted to hang out with her, I was like, this doesn't really match with how she's been portrayed before. But then it's like, well, okay, but she's getting closer to them now. She's showing more sides.
She was pretty standoffish in the early part of the show. It did seem a little weird that this episode happened where it did, as opposed to, before the Elite promotion.
Yeah, and I was wrong about because I kept saying something was going to happen to stop them from getting promoted to the elite class, but nope, they're in the elite class eating the gelato and everything. So
yeah. Well, they're continuing with the theme though. Now they're getting crushed by a pro. So
yeah.
Sal, what'd you think in general?
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. It was a little breather after we get all this competition. Just kind of see, okay, now they're an elite. What's going to be next? What are they going to set up for? Oh, right. Okay. Curious to see how this pro training is gonna work out, because
it was a pretty lightweight.
Because we know that the later episodes are gonna build up to the other Keijo competitions where they fight the other schools and teams. So.
Yep. Okay. Without any new ridiculous.
Curious to see how that's gonna happen.
Yeah, but without any new ridiculous attacks revealed, I don't think we have too much more to discuss on Keijo for this week. So I'm going to move on to Flip Flappers episode 6, and oh my gosh, this episode. Okay, I was confused for about half the episode, because I thought it was actually Kokona's backstory, which I've been waiting for a while now. But then towards the second half of the episode, when I figured out what was actually happening, I was like, oh, so this is telling us about what the nature of pure illusion is, and then, at the very end, that final frame that tells you that it really, quote-unquote, really happened, I was just like... Yeah, Flip Floppers kind of blew me away this week. That probably sounded totally incoherent, but...
No, well, I've seen the episode, so I know what you mean. Because that's how it played out, more or less for me, too. One thing I thought was really cool, the girl's name, Iro, is color.
Right, yeah.
So they're playing off of that the whole episode, and they're the way they were manipulating the red and the blue back and forth. I'm like... I don't know. It's a real simple, subtle little thing they're doing with the show, where they've just been flipping it back and forth between Coconut and.
Paprika.
Why can I never remember? Thank you. Why can I never remember her name?
Yeah.
I see her face. I see that face with the big eyes and her mouth hanging open. I'm like, that one.
Yeah, it's interesting how when they change into their super forms, they switch hair colors, but then often just in other more subtle instances they change colors in terms of who's highlighted in red and who's highlighted in blue, and I'm interested to keep an eye on that as the show goes on and see if it's just a cute little visual thing they're doing, or if there's maybe more to that. So
yeah, I think they're just trying to really bring home that they're two parts of a whole in the inside of Pure Illusion, at least. I don't know where they're going with that exactly.
Yeah.
But that seems to be what they're doing.
If you remember, when Kokona transformed in the first episode, she got purple hair.
Did she?
Yeah, the first episode, she transforms, but she doesn't do the full Magical Girl transformation. She just kind of sort of powers up.
I think she got red hair, though. Or maybe she got purple hair and then she got red hair?
I think it was purple, but Go back to confirm.
I'll have to go back and check. This is one of those shows where I feel like I need to go back and rewatch some episodes because I want to see things that I know that I missed. Like I remember seeing things earlier that like that's interesting. I don't know why they're doing that, but that's interesting. And now I want to go back and see if they make sense.
So, but also about this episode though. So can we now assume that Pure Illusion? Well, part of Pure Illusion anyway, because they had to go through a special door to get where they were in this episode. But they went back into Iroh's, I guess, memories or subconscious and changed things there that changed her outlook on life. Can we assume that's kind of what Pure Illusion...
Yeah, Pure Illusion, whether or not... Well, what exactly they went into is hard to say. It seemed like... I'm guessing you haven't played... let me see if I can remember the name of that game series. The one with the... Sal, you've played it. Help me. The one with the diving, where they go into the singing, the song girls, and they dive into their subconscious.
Or Tornelico?
Yeah, the Tonelico series. You haven't played those, have you, Karen?
No, I'm familiar with them, but I've never played them.
Okay, yeah. As I was watching this episode play out, I was like, I can make sense of this if I play Tonelico logic. And really, that's mostly how I kind of took it. Is that they somehow they got into her subconscious, and maybe Pure Illusion is like the imagination or the combined imagination of people. And,
yeah.
And that red spot was like the suppressed part, like the dangerous part that you keep locked away. You don't want people to explore. You don't want people to see.
Okay, so like every time they go into Pure Illusion, are they kind of going into someone's consciousness? And that's what, like, the Pure Illusion world is? Or is, like, the Pure Illusion worlds they go into, are they kind of like the collective unconscious, and it was only this one time they went specifically into someone's mind?
They haven't given us specifics to really say either way with that.
I feel like this is the kind of show, like, where everybody should be, like, smoking weed, and as we discuss it.
I think I'd be very lost if I were smoking weed.
Yeah.
I should probably say I've never actually smoked weed in my life, but like this seems like the kind of show where like you'd all smoke weed. It's like, but what is the nature of the collective unconscious and that sort of thing?
You'd have to smoke a lot because like one little amount just makes you feel relaxed and laid back.
Oh, I'll keep that in mind next time I want to put this.
Yeah, because I tried a little bit of it once.
Do not recommend.
Just not something to invest money on,
Okay.
I was just curious how it felt when I tried it.
I think, I don't know about most people, but I think a lot of people have. They do it once, and they're like, yeah, 5 out of 10 would not pay for that again. So, okay. So I feel like Flip Flappers, there's so much going on. We could.
Oh, actually, it's more like most of my people I know that do it. They put a little bit of tobacco in it, and I don't like to consume tobacco, so I'd rather it be natural with nothing in it.
Yeah, who needs tobacco?
Yeah.
I know you're ready to move on. One last thing, though, I noticed was that they changed, and I think that this really ties, at least showing us that we were in Iroh's subconscious. Is that her actual name, or was that just the name, symbolic name? It
was short for something. It's like Irohina or something like that.
So yeah, it was short for her actual name. Okay. When they come out, before they go in, they show the scene, the flashback with her. She's painting in the room, and she's using nail polish to paint, but she won't put it on her fingernails. And then at the very end, she's all smiling, and she's got the nail polish on her fingers, on her fingernails. So we can, at the very least, the one thing we can take away is that they were in her subconscious. Maybe it's a collective thing, maybe not, but they were in and affected her subconscious when they went into Pure Illusion. Yeah,
well, I did wonder at the very end when you see she's wearing the nail polish, so she's changed. I was like, okay, did they go into her subconscious and change kind of her memories of how that all went down, or did they actually go into the past and change it? But based on the way the show is, it just seems like it would make a lot more sense to me that they went up into her subconscious rather than literally time traveling.
Yeah, I don't think they traveled through time, but I wouldn't rule that out. But I don't have any reason to think that that's what they did either.
Yeah, but what I really like about this is I feel like now we have enough of a foothold with what's going on with Pure Illusion that it's not just a really pretty moving painting. Like now we have things to look for. So which I think the show needed at this point. So
no, I agree. I was waiting for that big something to come along and really give us give us an anchor into what pure illusion is. And I think they gave us that. I was really, really happy with this episode.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so we're going to move on to Izetta, the Last Witch, episode 7, and I don't know, I enjoyed the dog fighting aspect of it. I pretty much always do in this show, but I don't know if I'm really that into the whole, like, larger intrigue thing that's going on. Sal, you're still watching Izetta, right?
Yep.
What do you think of Izetta 7?
Yeah, so for like the whole part of her using the missiles to actually blow up the ship, yeah, that was pretty dope. Considering we mostly saw her using mostly just swords and spears, now she's actually using destructive weapons.
But it's like, we know that they have to have been betrayed by someone pretty high up in order for the Germanians to have been in on that plan. So I was asking myself who might have betrayed them, but then I realized I don't actually care that much either. So that's maybe not good.
I know they did imply that one traitor was still alive, the one that got caught last week.
It was. I don't think that so much that it was actually that specifically was them getting betrayed. The whole reason that ship went out to sea in the first place was to bait Izetta out there.
Yeah. Well, was to basically test, was to use it to find a way they could figure out her weakness.
Yeah, I mean, either
when they realized, wait a second, the Britannians are on the other side of the ocean to make sure the Germanian ship doesn't leave, so maybe there's a limitation to how far her powers go up to.
Yeah, okay, now I'm thinking about it. I thought they had to have been betrayed for the Germanians to know the specifics of the plan, but now that you mention it, they didn't actually have to know, like, what direction Izetta was going to come from, because they were already, like, on the sea, so...
Yeah, they were expecting her. That was the whole reason for launching the ship. I think they more or less implied the reason the ship was not already in service is that it was just going to get blown up when they launched it anyway. It didn't have a function. It was too big of a target. They couldn't use it for political reasons, and so they launched it to intentionally draw Izetta out and hoping she'd be the one to come and get rid of it.
Okay, that actually makes more sense, because I was trying to think of, like, who in their inner circle at this point who knew about that could have been a traitor, and I wasn't really coming up with anybody, so that makes more sense.
Yeah, I think that her inner circle is actually, I think that they're all pretty much on the same page. We might be proven wrong later, but...
I was suspicious of the Norwegian guy. He showed up and he's like, well, my grandfather was from Nord. I bet your other grandfather was from Germany, you lying spy. But he seemed to be on the up and up, so that's good. Let's see. What else about this?
Oh, yeah. And they already implied that Germania obviously does have a couple witches in captivity.
I don't know what they implied. They were vague enough that I'm not sure what to make of that.
Yeah, but they showed a tank that I think it looked like there was a person, or at least a humanoid.
Yeah, it was like the same one that Izetta was in. That's what I was thinking. Maybe some of the witches aren't really dead, but Germania just captured them or are keeping them in secret for experiments.
It did look like a similar type of thing. But it could have been any number of things. It could be them trying to make a witch. It could have been something to do with the secret of the real White Witch. I mean, if you remember earlier in the show, the king, before he dies, says there's no way the White Witch would help us. Mm-hmm. Like, he's completely sure that there's no way that would be
that's what happening. I was thinking, too, that maybe that's the White Witch in the tank. Who knows?
Yeah, there's that possibility, or something similar.
Yeah, because we don't know exactly why Izetta's grandmother despises the White Witch and was telling her not to go down her path.
Yeah, I mean, maybe she was a German traitor. Maybe that's why they don't like her. I don't know. I'm enjoying Izetta overall. I think that the biggest thing I want from it at this point is a good emotional payout at the end. Yeah. I like the story enough, but it's very, very simple.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's missing something at this point. Like, the first, 2 or 3 episodes were, bang on, perfect, could not have been handled better. And now it's, it's still entertaining, but it's just not as, on point as it was. Okay, so we're gonna move on to Utsu no Prince-sama Legend Star Episode 7. I had completely forgotten that Natsuki had a split personality, and his other personality was, a sociopath. This episode became more... Once that happened, I was like, oh, right, this is actually kind of interesting, because he's got, this psycho guy now who's in control of his body. But then, nothing... It didn't really go anywhere. I wanted Satsuki to, go nuts and, take one of the other idol bands hostage or something, which this show could totally do, but they really didn't do much with it. So I continue continue to just be annoyed with Utapri. LB, did you like this one any more than me?
I agree with you that they could have done a lot more with the concept of this episode, but I do like that. I always like it when it's a Natsuki episode because that means that Satsuki is going to come out, and Satsuki is all sorts of cool.
Yeah, I'm a bad fan. I completely forgot he existed until he was on screen this time.
Yeah, so I mean, whenever Natsuki has an episode to himself, it's always interesting because you know that the split personality is going to come out. So yeah, but I do agree that they could have done more, but being that this entire season has been kind of lackluster, I think that what they did do with it was interesting enough to give it a passing grade.
We'll take what we can get.
Exactly. It's just like, you know what? It wasn't amazing, but it was better than half the episodes this season. So,
okay, I don't think we're gonna dwell on Utapri too long this week. Let's move on to March Comes In Like a Lion, and actually, this is the first episode of March Comes In Like a Lion where I felt like it was kind of maybe just retreading old ground a little bit. Like I barely even remember what happened in this episode. It's about Ray playing shogi and the fact that he's actually had some losses, but basically it was just like, Ray is really depressed. Let us count the ways that Ray is really depressed. And like, because it's always well directed and everything, it was still worth watching. But I was just kind of thinking like, okay, we know this already. The previous episodes have gone over this in pretty impressive detail. So this episode I felt like I could have skipped. LB?
For the most part, I enjoyed it, but I don't know if it was just me, but I found the pacing of this episode to be, like, excruciatingly slow. Like, I remember at one point I was watching the episode and I'm like, okay, I'm like 75% of the way through the episode, and I looked down and I was at the 9-minute mark. And I was like, oh, God. So, yeah, for me, this episode just moved really, really slow. I actually had to take multiple breaks throughout it just because it was just so slow paced that I had to clear my mind every so often, like clear my cache out. So yeah, it was just one of those things. But other than that, I thought it was a good episode.
Well, it's interesting because I feel kind of like the show actually did a really good job of presenting how it feels to deal with that kind of depression. But as a result of doing that well, it's depressing for the viewer. So maybe they did that a little bit too well. I don't know. Because I feel like the slow pace, like in order to really explore depression, like that was appropriate. But I don't know. I'm just hoping the next episode gets back on track, because the episodes 1 through 5 of the show I pretty much loved. And this was the first one where I was like, I don't know, guys. So okay. Moving on to Kiss Him, Not Me. I thought this episode was hilarious. Oh, it's episode 6, by the way. I like how instead of kind of fighting over Kai, all the guys basically realize that, okay, these two girls who are close friends are having a fight, and it'll be really terrible for both of them if they lose their friendship over this. So let's try to like nicely get them back together. So I like the way they were kind of working together, and it wasn't like for their like romantic gain. It was just because they cared about Kai and they didn't want her to lose a good friend. So I thought it was funny and kind of heartwarming too. LB?
Yeah, my big note from this series from this particular episode was, oh look, they're having a fight and they put up a kitten. That's cute. And that's pretty much the deepest thought that I had about this episode. I thought it was really entertaining. Actually, there was one question that kind of popped up in the back of my head when I got to the end of the episode, and I'm curious, Karen, what you think. Do you think this series will end in the typical harem fashion of just being, left really open to viewer interpretation? Or do you think that they might actually go all the way and end it with like a Yuri ending?
Oh, wow.
Yuri ending?
Well, that's pretty much they've hinted at it, so I'm curious if they would go all the way with it.
I'm sorry, Sal, you were saying?
Oh, I did hear that the creator of the manga was known for writing a lot of shonen-y and yaoi stuff, so who knows?
That doesn't necessarily mean she'd go same-sex couple in the other direction, though.
I was saying it's a possibility in that case because of the background.
I would really like it if that happened, just for subverting the formula, but I would be really, really surprised if it went that way. Like, I hope I'm wrong. I really, really hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be the typical ending where it ends and she's like, oh, I like all of them. They're my friends. And they're all like, well, next time we'll see who Kai really likes. Ha ha ha. And then, like, fade to black. Like, I will be so happy if I'm wrong, but I would bet money that's what's going to happen. So.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's what would happen too, but I figured, I wanted to get your opinion on it. I wanted to see if you thought that any differently.
But hey, you know what? If I'm wrong, I'm gonna have a party or something. I swear. Yeah, that would be such a nice change of pace.
It looks like you might be right, Karen, since the manga hasn't ended yet. So.
Well, that doesn't. Well, I'll take any opportunity to be right, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right. Okay. So, we're going to move on to... Oh, I'm sorry. Even though I've read fanfic and everything, I've never been, super into it. Like, I kind of when I was getting into anime, I read some fanfics on and off, and I was kind of like, okay, I feel like I know what this is now. It's just not really my thing. But, the amount of passion that these girls have over, they're not even disagreeing on who's in a relationship with who. They're disagreeing on the placement. It's like, does that happen? Does anybody know about this?
What are they disagreeing about?
Well, it's...
Who's the top and who's the bottom?
Oh...
I don't know, I gotta get a Joshi on this show and interview her and ask her, because I cannot imagine, having an issue with that, but I guess it must come from somewhere.
I see that in anime sometimes, where they argue about that. I can't think of a specific example, but it's not the first time I've heard of it.
Okay, this is a gap in my otaku education, clearly. Okay, so we're going to move on to a show we couldn't discuss last week because LB wasn't caught up. Magical Girl Raising Project Episode 6, and apparently this was some kind of humdinger of an episode. LB, what happened?
This was one of the biggest info dumps I've been subjected to in a very long time, but it's also one of the most violent info dumps I've been subjected to in a very long time. I don't know if I can really summarize the episode, other than one of the magical girls is actually quite evil and is actually sort of kind of running the show in a way, and now she's off murdering the other magical girls. 2 girls die in this episode.
The big reveal was, one of the big reveals was, oh right, this whole game is a sham. We're actually created this game to give opponents a reason to fight this other girl who has a contract with Fav for a as of yet unknown purpose, and they are the ones with the real deal being struck. Everyone else is a casualty of whatever that deal is.
Wait, so are they just using the other girls as cannon fodder to try to stop the bad magical girl?
No, Fav is in cohorts with the bad magical girl. The little mascot dude, he is contracted with her for some purpose, and in order to get her to do what he wants, he's created the game to give her what she wants.
Wait, but how does it benefit her to go around killing magical girls? Is she just a sadist, or?
Yeah, she just wants.
So here's a question: what if someone kills that bad magical girl? What's going to happen?
We don't know yet.
Question. And given the way the show's going, I have to suspect that at some point where she's all maniacally laughing, or she's all depressed about how nobody could stand up to her, we'll have Sonico take her head off with a sword or something. We'll be like, whoa, where'd that come from?
I don't know if it'll be Sonico, but it'll probably be someone unexpected. I don't think it's going to be the main girl.
Swim is sticking around.
Swim is sticking around, but I just don't think that she's going to be the one to take out Cranberry.
I don't know, though. I mean, the way the show is gone, it's like the magical girl they killed, by the way, Karen, was the first one they killed was the boy.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, they had this whole scene with him basically, why he's so upset at the way the game is playing out. And then after beating him senseless, he transforms back into a human. She just kind of drops him and lets him wander out in front of a bus.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I mean, it was harder to watch than Drifters. God damn.
And okay, so and they killed someone else too.
Yeah, at the end of the episode.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead, Live Song.
So has this show topped Madoka in terms of shocking situations and turn of events?
Madoka didn't. I mean, that's a hard one to answer because Madoka shocked other people a lot more than it shocked me. So I don't know if I'm the best person to ask that question.
Well, I want to hear from your side, from UNLB's side.
I feel like yes, I'm getting more. Not so much that it's unexpected, but the pacing and the timing is what's messing with me. Like they had a character back in episode 5. I'm like, oh, she's going to die. Cranberry is going to kill her and murder her for everything she stands for. And then the next episode, they filled in and killed a different character instead of her. And it was like, oh, I can see how they did that, and it worked, but that is not at all what the narrative seemed like it was doing. It worked. It fit perfectly with what they were doing. But it wasn't, like I said, it was kind of like a good misdirection. And that the show's been good at that so far. I think it's been pretty good at that anyway.
Okay, but you were going to tell me who was killed at the end.
Oh, yeah, the little robot girl. She shows up, and she's been working with the gangster girl. The gangster girl's all, yeah, you want to prove you're loyal to me? Go kill one of the other magical girls. She's like, okay, well, guess I gotta go kill a magical girl. And she shows up and she hacks off the new girl's head. And by the way, before she hacks off her head, and by the way, they animate this. They show it.
Yeah, they show it very.
After several episodes of showing very little and being very low key, and so yeah, the shock value is there. But they showed her. They showed the brutality toward Cho, and then they showed the brutality with the head getting cut off. Well, right before she gets her head cut off, they show their powers when the splash screens come up. Well, I read her power. She's like, can heal from anything.
Oh.
I'm like, you might want to look behind you, and then the next thing you see, without even putting her head back on, her hand is stuck through the other girl's chest, and then the little robot detransforms and falls over dead.
Okay. Do you think there's a danger with this show where it could actually get so dark where you just stop caring entirely, where you just get
I don't think it'll do that. I'm sure that could happen to some people. I'm pretty invested.
LB?
Yeah, Lifesong put it exactly as I would put it. Not exactly, but very close to what I would say, and I agree with him. I believe the shock value, it would be really interesting to go back and rewatch Madoka and then rewatch Magical Girl Raising Project and see which one had the bigger shock value. My gut instinct is telling me that in terms of pure story twists and violent shock value, Magical Girl Raising Project has totally passed Madoka. That's my gut telling me.
Madoka had two really, really big moments, and one of them is episode 3. I don't think I even did explain, and the other one was the ending.
Yeah,
I think around episode 8 when is another really big one.
There's the one where Kyubey explains how everything works too. So if you want to count that as one, then there's 3.
Yeah. I'm interested when the show's all done to kind of be able to hear how it compares and what how it kind of fits in this whole dark magical girl genre that we now have. So.
Yeah, I mean, most of these dark magical girl shows, they very quickly fell to even get close to living up to Madoka. So just the fact that we're sitting here comparing this one is, I think, a good sign.
Yeah, I totally agree there. I mean, this has been, like I mentioned back on episode 1, 51 seconds in, I was absolutely glued, and I knew that this was a series that I wanted to stick with. And now, 6 episodes later, I still feel the same way. This series is still completely catching me off guard on a weekly basis.
It has just a little bit of mind game to it too, with the characters. Like, they introduced items that the characters can buy that are like you spend your life force to buy them, like your real life force to buy them. And
also, and props that Urabuchi wasn't involved in this project.
No, he was not involved.
Yeah, considering how dark it is.
So they buy, the items go up for sale, and Sanako and her friends buy all of the items immediately. And And they were kind of like, I mean, at the beginning of the show, like, you know, you're not really too afraid of them. Then they murder their leader, and now they bought all the scary magical items. I don't know.
LB, quick question. Since Lurch is doing the animation, how's the quality on Magical Girl Racing Project so far?
It's spot on to the point of being terrifying. I mean, the brutality in the scenes that they animated, I was kind of in shock after the episode.
Well, so visually, it does do a good job in portraying those.
Visually, it's impressive.
Yeah, visually, I'd agree that it's really well done. It has that really dark moe factor going where, you know, it just reminds me of that wonderful phrase, you can't spell slaughter without laughter.
yeah, it does kind of have that going for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it, and I'm definitely interested to hear, like, how it ends up at the end, but, how it ends up at the end. Smart, Karen, great. But, I think I did the right thing by dropping it, because I think I would have been very uncomfortable sitting through this episode.
So, yeah, there's probably a good chance of that.
Maybe it'll be something better for you to marathon, Karen, instead of watching week by week.
Well, if I know the bad stuff that's going to happen to begin with, and if I'm really interested in it, then I can go back and watch it, and because I know it's coming, it won't, freak me out. But that's only if it finishes and everyone's like, oh my god, it was so stellar, would I actually bother to do that?
Yeah, we'll let you know. It might get there. I mean, it might. I think it's an unfinished series it's based on, so I don't know where they're going to end it. But I guess that's an interesting question at this point.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to something totally not worthy of this transition. Moving on to Kaiju Girls episode 7. Sal, I don't even remember what happened in this episode. I'm so bored.
Yeah, it was
I blame you, Sal. It's your fault.
Yeah. Yeah, they're preparing for some seminar. They introduced a Kaiju Girl version of Gomorrah, and now there's some sort of shadows that I don't know what they're going to play a role in.
But see, you saying that was more interesting than the actual episode. I don't know how this show manages to be so boring with only 3 minutes, but it does. And I was thinking after I watched this episode, okay, I'm going to drop it. And I was like, what do you think you're accomplishing by dropping a 3-minute show? Just ride it out. But I'm like, it's a boring 3 minutes.
Is it more boring than Panda Peace?
Oh, man. See, Panda Peace had the advantage that at least I like bread. So I could always just be like, yummy, bread. I can't...
There were at least 3 or 4 jokes in Panda Peace. Did we ever do a tally?
Well, I did actually tally up exactly how many different kinds of bread there were in Panda Peace, and it was less. It was less than the number of episodes. I don't think I tallied the complete number of jokes though. I don't know. It's just I guess I'm just not going to drop Kaiju Girls because I like the idea of following at least one short, but it's I'm just going to be complaining about it from here on in unless something changes drastically.
Yeah.
All right, but moving on to something.
We're almost done with this season, so we got this month in December, so we'll see.
We're halfway through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, about the halfway mark.
Okay. Actually, in a couple of weeks, we'll probably want to start talking about next season, but you know what? One problem at a time.
Yeah, crazy.
Yes.
Time flies when you're talking about anime. Okay, moving on to another show I'm not watching, but I enjoy hearing about. Drifters, episode 6. Life Song, what do you think about this one?
Okay, is it... Are we talking about 6 and 7 or 5 and 6?
Let's go ahead. Let's do 5 and 6.
5 and 6.
Okay, that sounds good.
So back to the Elf Rebellion. Man, that was brutal. Is there anything else that needs to be said other than, wow, that was brutal? And Nobunaga is going to make gunpowder and use dwarves to make himself an army full of elves with guns. The show is nuts.
There's the whole bit. The last 30 seconds actually made me almost drop this series. I was so uncomfortable during that moment.
It is very good at doing the discomfort thing. I think they're doing it intentionally, and I think they probably... I mean, as far as that scene was concerned, it could have been a lot worse.
Wait, what
happened?
It
could have been a lot worse. They go in to rescue the female elves from the fortress. They walk into a room and discover that all the female elves for the last couple of years have been strapped to tables, abused, raped, upbeat and the whole shebang.
Yeah, I could see where that would kind of leave you with not feeling so hot. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that, and I literally almost dropped the series.
They did something. They do some really cool thematic things with the show too, though. I like, and when Toyashi is headed toward the room, the elf wants to kill the one dude who's giving up and surrendering, and he's all, no, you shouldn't kill people who unless they've who act accordingly, who act as they should. You shouldn't murder them, otherwise you're the same as they are. And then he gets into that room and he completely changes his mind. But then the next episode they line them all up and they kill everyone except the one dude. And the one dude is like, he just got there. He doesn't know what's going on. He's clueless. And the elf repeats Toyashi's line, and they actually didn't kill him. And I thought that was interesting, in particular after watching all of Hellsing, where I'm like, they would have killed that guy. They would have highlighted it in Hellsing.
Wait, so like, considering that Jesus is an important character on this show, is he like behind the elf girl torturing, or is he like not involved?
No. Jesus is actually trying to liberate. Yeah, Jesus is actually trying to liberate the elf and the demi-humans, which the elves technically would be a part of, but Nobunaga and Toyashi and the Genji kid have, I guess, beat him to saving the elves. So they're kind of working with the elves now. They have some really neat little like political commentaries too that they throw in there every once in a while about leadership and loyalty, and they're interesting in particular because their comments coming from like people you would never ever trust in leadership positions, but they had real leadership positions, and obviously they're not real people, but in the anime. But I don't know. I just think it's interesting all the stuff they throw together. It's like stop and think about the implications and whatnot. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Okay,
so that was episode 5 where all that went down.
Yep.
Basically that, and it trailed a little bit into episode 6.
I think the gunpowder thing was 6, wasn't it?
They hinted at it in 5. They didn't reveal what was actually going on until 6.
Yeah. And they've totally been killing everyone. The reason Nobunaga wants to be so thorough with killing all of his enemies is that he can kill them and make them decompose and turn them into gunpowder.
Well, that's practical.
Yeah.
Hey, it saves money on like the resources used to make gunpowder.
I mean, he doesn't have the resources to make them otherwise. So I'm like, okay, I get where he's going with this. I want to see where this gets to the end. Like, is he going to have an army full of elves with guns? I don't know.
Well, like, do elves have magic on this show, or?
No, they're just really good. Well, we don't know if they have magic or not. We haven't seen any elves with magic, but what they do have is a strong affinity for like archery and stuff, for aiming and whatnot. I imagine that'll apply to guns, but we haven't seen them with guns yet.
Okay.
And I guess they're well familiar with like the environment and nature.
Yeah, something like that. They also mature super slowly, so like. The one kid you meet in like the first episode is actually like what, older than Toyashi? Something like
50, he's like 39 or something like that.
Oh, is he 39? Okay, something like that. But he's a kid and he acts like a kid.
Okay, it sounds interesting. I mean, really disturbing, but
yeah.
It is very disturbing.
I definitely have a couple of other things I wanted to mention.
Mm-hmm.
About 5?
No, about 6.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. 6. I thought we were talking about.
No, let's go. Let's stick to 6 now.
Okay, yeah. I have 2 things that absolutely have to be said. First off, the sequence with Easy in her pajamas was probably the best thing that this series has done so far.
Oh, I don't remember what happened.
She basically, they show, it's just this long, like, it's like 90 seconds of her.
Yes,
she wakes up, walks down the hallway in her pajamas, complete with sleep cap and a stuffed bunny.
And then she finds out that
goes into her room, sits on the couch with her legs spread in front of her laptop, catches the news, and then it and then it switches to her door, like literally shaking because she's screaming so loud about what she's seeing.
Right. Jesus was supposed to get the elves, not Toyashi.
Yeah, but yeah, that entire sequence is probably the best thing the series has done so far. I'm so gonna, you guys are gonna see pictures next spring of me cross-playing that.
Yeah, that's like another thing that Hellsing was known for doing as well too, of like moments like that.
I'm gonna steal the second one. I assume the second one was the founder of the Oto Empire.
Absolutely, yeah. I expected Hitler to play such a larger role in this universe.
Well, the role he played was perfect, though. I mean, he got there after, I guess, losing World War II. He did some kind of coup in the nation that was there, took over, completely conquered the world, and then killed himself.
Yeah, for reasons that are unknown. But when I knew that Hitler was going to be in the series somehow, that part had been spoiled.
I didn't know that he was going to be, but when they show that picture, I'm like, that scene where they're looking where Nobunaga is staring at the painting, I was just like, are they going to pan to the face? Is that who I think it is?
Yeah.
God damn it, it's who I think.
Yeah, it had been spoiled for me that Hitler was going to make some kind of appearance. I didn't know that he was going to be, like, the founder of this whole nation and everything. I figured that he was going to be a living character and he was going to play some kind of major role. So that just kind of caught me off guard.
So the show's still implying that the world they're in is some sort of purgatory, right?
We don't really know. It's some woman thrown in by like these two deities that are kind of fighting over order and chaos, or good and evil, or some such. I mean, trying to define who the good guys and the bad guys are is interesting. Like, one of the things they said in the episode was they weren't sure whether or not Hitler was one of the drifters or one of the ends. And they leave it ambiguous there. Like, you could question whether or not he was one of the good guys. Good day. Good day.
So drifters went where Izetta would not and gave us anime Hitler.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and it's actually Hitler. It's not even fake Hitler. It was actually him.
Actually, it would be an interesting research project to like look up all the anime that have featured Hitler and just see what. Which is a nice
follow up from Hellsing, since Hellsing did have Nazis.
Yeah, Hellsing did have Nazis. You're right. I actually like. I mean, the thing with Hellsing is it was gratuitous violence and like. I don't want to say it was completely mindless, because there was some cool stuff with Alucard's character, but other than that, there's not much thought you put into it. It's just ridiculous. And Drifters, it's like, I actually feel like there's a lot of thought put into every single character that's picked for every single role in the story.
I wanted to ask, did you eventually get to watch Hellsing Ultimate, or you just saw the original?
Yeah, I've seen Ultimate.
Cool.
Alrighty, so I think we're actually done for this week. Maybe I'll try to catch up on Occultic 9 before the end of the season, because I feel bad that Lifesong can't discuss it with anyone.
Occultic 9 is so good.
I know.
If you want to catch up with a mystery where I'm actually not completely like predicting all of it, here it is. I'm having a hard time with this one.
All right, I'll try to find the time before we record next time.
Cool.
Alrighty, so I guess we're going to say good night for this time. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. And if someone wants to actually give us a review on iTunes, that would be really nice, because I know I always keep forgetting to like even mention that the iTunes feed of the podcast even exists. But that would be a nice thing that someone could do. So okay, good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.
Oyasumi nasai.